Brian, I'm in big trouble.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Brian, you've known me for a while and you know me as a pretty conservative guy. But yesterday I kind of broke the internet or broke at least X.
Mhm.
Um, I started off the day by admitting that I had sold every single share of stock that I had in Tesla,
Yeah.
every single share. Now,
Panic sale?
it wasn't a panic sale. And I
No.
specifically, right, I said right there, right in the same paragraph, I said, I gave my reasons, and then I said, and this is a 3-day deal.
Hmm.
I plan to be back in if it drops to 250.
Hmm. Hmm.
And everybody took it wrong.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody. Some people got it right away. Other
Yeah.
people took it wrong.
Yeah.
So, what did you follow any of that craziness yesterday as people were back and
Yeah.
forth?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically it was you're saying that it was a um cost benefit analysis. You thought that, the we had uh um the delivery numbers coming out and things, a lot of people were estimating that would be very bad. People who had gotten it right before. So um whisper number was 265K, analyst numbers was 286, but then there were, sorry, 386
Crazy.
and,
Yeah.
and 350, but then there were 365. There were people who were saying they could drop to low 335, 350.
Right.
So having a bad number, could, as well as with Trump and Elon arguing again, could easily have sent the stock down to um, 250 from 299. So your case was that it could go down 50, it could go up like 10 or 15, and that 3 to 1, 4 to 1, seems like you could pop in, especially if you didn't have any, if you had the shares in a way that it was no taxes involved.
Right. Yeah. It was in a pension. Yeah. So it
Yeah.
doesn't work for everybody, but since it was in and it would work, it would also work for somebody for whom their sale would be a loss. So then it wouldn't have a tax problem either.
Yeah.
Yeah. You hit it out of the park, Brian. You hit it right on the nose. That's exactly what I was trying to do. And even I even got some what do you want to call it, pushback from Tesla Boomer Mama. She even thought that I was, a trade. All of a sudden, I was a traitor,
Mhm.
and I said, "No, I'm not a traitor. I'm a trader."
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So I did. So of course, it turned out it went the wrong way.
Yeah.
The sales number came in almost exactly what the street was predicting, as opposed to AJ and
Hmm.
Troy and Cat and
Yeah.
all these guys that have been very, very right in the past. They missed it by a mile. The
Hmm.
street got it right. So, I threw my dice. My dice
Hmm.
didn't come up the way I thought, and I ended up I bought back in today.
Yeah.
I think it was like $7.50 or $8 was my
Hmm.
total loss on the deal. So I didn't think that was, I wasn't even sad this morning. I would have rather it gone the other way, but
Yeah.
it wasn't a significant loss in the scheme of things.
So the interesting thing is that the analyst numbers have been getting better the last few quarters. Traditionally, the people like Troy or the people who look at it all the time, look at every weekly, number, what's China's putting out, European numbers, all that kind of stuff. And usually before a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever that, the people who did that work would always have better numbers. But now they don't. And or at least the last few times they have not, right? So they're getting more off on that. And then the analysts seem to be doing better. Before, the analysts would seem to not do the work, and then they would end up with really bad numbers. And oftentimes, when they were overestimating, they were um, ignoring known bad news that would take the numbers down. But that didn't seem to be the case this time. So we have to see whether it's just a luck thing or not. Part of it that's not a luck thing is that Troy Tesla, who's famous for counting all the VIN numbers and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
is that he has been wrong in Q2 for the last 5 years.
Oh, interesting.
So he admitted that himself.
Huh.
So the thing about that would be that there's seasonality in there. That Q1 for car companies is bad, and then Q2, Q3, and Q4 tend to be better.
Right.
And that it's easier to get the Q4 seasonality right, a surge of buying before
Hmm.
Christmas.
Hmm.
But there seems to be looking like an inherent strength in Q2 that wasn't there. But the other thing, this one was messed up by the fact that Q1 you had the switching of the Model Y models. Um,
Right.
so, but it still seems to be people should expect a stronger Q2 over Q1 in general.
Right. All right. And so anyway, so I missed. I took my lumps. I went back out there, and some people were still complaining about my decision, but
Mhm.
you're never going to please them all.
Yep.
But I did reiterate my estimates with regard to the near term and the middle term.
Right.
You and I are in I think accord at the end of the year. I'm at 1,000. You've
Mm.
been as high as 1,500. I don't know if you've shifted your thinking at all on that, but I'm still at 1,000 for my price target for the end of the year. What are you thinking?
Well, again, this is dependent upon
Right.
a significant rollout of Robotaxi, getting to 20,000, some vehicles getting to like 5 cities or something like that. And then also getting to a low price car this month,
This
right?
okay.
If you don't get this month and you start going into August and whatever, especially if you don't ramp hard in August, then you're going to be substantially down on units. I'm expecting them to get, to, so right now we're at, you had 335,000 deliveries in Q1, you had 384,000 in Q2.
Mhm.
So you're at like 720,000 for the first 2 years. So
2 quarters.
2 quarters. So then you need to have like, you know, in order for the robotaxi surge of purchasing to happen or for the new vehicle stuff to happen, that surge has to happen. So if you go through Q3 with no surge, then the numbers won't really, you'd be depending upon an immaculate Q4. And then that could shove the surge in the stock price because you wouldn't get the numbers. And people
Mhm.
would know for sure. It seems really good. All the stuff is going along, but then you wouldn't have numbers to do it. So I would say if things start slipping, then it could go into end of Q1, Q2 of next year before you get the full surge because the data wouldn't be there to support that. So the fact that, yeah, go ahead.
So my caveat is less about how many cities we roll out to, and how many cars are total are employed by the end of the year. My one caveat, maybe haven't made this clear, is that we get unsupervised.
Mhm,
Because I think unsupervised is what opens up a tremendous amount of value.
mhm,
Once we get to unsupervised, I think we get car sales out of that, a lot of car sales out of that, just people saying, I want that now, that
mhm,
it's actually you can go to sleep in the back or play games or whatever. I think you get much more FSD uptake. And that FSD uptake is going to be a big, big profit boost,
mhm.
which also would, at some point, we get the old FSD money that's been sitting and hibernating. And then you also, I think we'll see as we get closer to the end of the year, Europe, China, the UN potentially at least get us to FSD level by the end of the year. And then probably we get the US coming through and approving robotaxi on a national level. Those are the kind of things that are my caveats. It doesn't all have to happen, but those, I think all of those are catalysts that will be building on top of the robotaxi rollout, that are kind of part of the entire theory around autonomous vehicles.
Right. And some other stuff is that the energy stuff is not surging either. So all the things that were kind of like some execution timing dependent things that should be happening, none of them have broken yet, right? Like he still had 9.6 gigawatt hours of energy installed in Q2, down from 10.6, I think, in Q1, which is basically just the Lather factory. China
Right.
factory supposedly started, beginning of this year. So some numbers should be coming through on that. So you need to start breaking up to the 15,
Right.
20 gigawatt hours in a quarter.
Uh-huh.
So again, Q3, in order to set up a strong Q4, we wouldn't get those numbers until October 2nd, right?
Right.
And then see the numbers on October 21st. So then if that still have not emerged, then if it all has to happen in Q4, then you don't find out until January, February,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that's a problem in terms of causing the stock won't move. If it was a surge in numbers that we're expecting to see, now pretty much I would you would want to have seen the indications and things rolling. Like, okay, Robotaxi is rolling
Right.
for 1 month. Okay,
Right.
good, that's there. But we have not got the car yet, and so we have not gotten new numbers there. There's no the Robotaxi is not to the point that it's surging into sales. FSD sales aren't coming in, right? So now let's say it happens in the next month or two, and then we get half of the numbers to get some indication that it's happening in Q3,
Hmm.
and it's you have to have a lot of momentum going into Q4 in order for the stock move that we both talked about to happen. So
The other thing that people have been talking about for a very, very long time, of course, is licensing. We heard from Jim Farley in terms of him believing that the radar, I'm sorry, lidar is still
lidar.
important and that you need that, blah, 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 that he's looking for a partner, that he knows he needs to partner with somebody, but that he's still not doing it. But there's, of course, 60 other companies, 70 other companies out there. I suppose there's really only about 10 that would have the kind of volume that Elon would be interested in, but there's still those 10. It would seem to me the same thing is true, that if they haven't made a decision yet, that sometime in the third quarter, the Robotaxi rollout is going to be obvious.
Mhm.
This is what I'm thinking that the street needs to see also.
Right.
I don't know what the signal will be. I don't know what will pop through to where they go, oh, they've got 300 cars and they're still not having accidents, or oh, they've gone 2 months without accidents, or oh, they've decided to go into a second city. I don't know what will be that final kind of like the flip, the switch flips.
So my about five things I think have to happen. One is get rid of the safety monitor.
Right.
So that clearly has to happen. I think that is needed also to get to 300 to 1,000 vehicles. I think obviousness is about 2,000. I need to have, you know, 2,000, basically fully doing everything in Austin as much as Uber, and or going to multiple cities, Austin, Houston, Dallas, as well as LA and San Francisco,
Right.
right? If you do that with 2,000 to 5,000 vehicles, particularly another city, another state, if you do those things with significant numbers and you know, full service areas, that kind of stuff, then that would be okay, it's going to happen.
And you think those would be enough to get the street and or the OEMs to say, I guess this is real. We don't need LiDAR to get this done.
Yeah, yeah, because it would be bigger than Waymo. And it would be done in like, I'm presuming before the end of the year. So that means 6 months instead of 7 months instead of
Years.
7 years, right?
So I was thinking the other day, I feel like I might have already asked you this question, but if I did, whatever. I'll ask it again. It occurred to me that in that kind of analysis of vision versus LiDAR, if vision gets us to better than human driving, which I think it already is, and we see months of, 1 million miles, 2 million miles without any significant accidents. How much better would it have to be for lidar to be worth it? Would it have to be twice as good? Would it have to be an order of magnitude better? What would a smart person like Jim Farley sitting there trying to make his decision, and he's saying, well, it's going to be safer with lidar. Well, how much safer does it have to be? How many fewer deaths would it have to be? How many fewer injuries, or just how many fewer fender benders in order to say, oh, well, now this will be a selling point?
I don't see how, if they're looking at scaling or safety, like if they're, roughly, we had one incident out of 10 vehicles running for a week or something like that for Tesla. And it was Dave Lee's, the safety monitor had to push the emergency stop to avoid a UPS truck from backing into the vehicle. So
Right.
it was UPS driver being inattentive, but you wanted to avoid a fender bender. So it's my incident. There have been about like 43 incidences for about 100 Waymos in Austin for the
Mm.
last 4 months,
Hmm.
right? And then going back to their testing phase in the last half of last year, they had two collisions,
Mm.
right? And 20 other incidents, and still blocking traffic and all that kind of stuff. So that is clear data, up to date, more up to date and more timely than the once a year numbers we get from California,
Right.
right? So way more like to talk about how safe they are. Like I can make more number projections off of the Austin data, and the Austin data is telling me that Waymo is still having one incident, a significant incident for every two cars, one or two cars that they have over a year period,
Hmm.
right? So to me, that is, you know, not that much better than human driving, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And also the fact that it's still causing traffic problems. So
Mhm.
to me, the argument of safety is not necessarily there, right? And then again, Tesla's in the range of that. We'll see over the next little bit, yeah, as the data comes in, how good it is. But I think it's coming in pretty decent, although there is that monitoring point. So if Tesla's already in the range, certainly of the if not Waymo, then the next two after Waymo,
Right.
Zoox and whatever. So so then going to Jim Farley, I think that ARK Invest, Winton said that it's more that Waymo and Google are willing to pay Ford to use their system
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
while Tesla wants to be paid.
Paid.
So then Farley's looking at that, and then he's not doing the deep analysis of the usage. He's delegating that to other people.
Mm.
And then they're looking at it also from a number of things because Ford only has a valuation of like $43 billion. And getting cash from someone else, like they haven't developed squat or whatever, right? And the Waymo, the lidar stuff does not scale because you have to build a lot of lidar,
Right.
right? So Waymo's big rollout thing is, I think Bank of America or Wells Fargo talked about, maybe they can get to 20,000 vehicles in 2030, right?
Yeah.
Add 2,000, 3,000 a year or something like that.
Right. Right.
That's a drop in the bucket for Ford, right? So how does that help Ford move 4 million vehicles? It doesn't do anything for that. So
Right.
then they're doing just driver assist. So, and then if Ford going to switch over their model to Robotaxi, it's anyway. So I don't think, um, people were trying to give Jim Farley more credit for being more forward thinking, and I don't think that's necessarily happening.
You don't think that's necessarily the case.
Right.
He's a
Right.
nice guy. Maybe that's why
Well,
they.
one thing it's also it's a bigger call. Like it's the CEO of
Yeah.
a car production company has to say, I'm going to switch my business model to go this other way,
Yeah.
right? And that's a big, it's like okay, I'm um the movie rental business, right? Blockbuster or whatever like that, and Netflix is going to sell me their streaming thing, right? So none of the video rental people made the move,
Right.
other than Netflix, and then the people who got into streaming followed afterward were Disney content companies. So a tech company, OpenAI or something like that, could make the move and have the money to do it, but the people who are assembling cars because they're not even making a lot of the components with their engines. You know, which one of them can make that move? I think the main company that can make that move is Xiaomi.
Xiaomi, huh?
Xiaomi is a cell phone company maker in China,
Right,
and they got into cars. It's
right,
like Apple's a cell phone maker, and then they had a car project that they didn't follow through on,
right,
but these guys
right.
did follow through on, right?
Well, there and Apple's never been a manufacturer.
Right, right. They would do with Foxconn or something like
Right,
that.
right.
So it seems like in terms of the partner, um, maybe the only OEM is one who's not really an OEM that much, which is Xiaomi. Um, would one of the other companies, I don't know if um, Kia, Hyundai, because of their connections in with Samsung or something like that, could make that switch over.
Yeah, and the benefit to Kia and Hyundai is that they are the combined, when you combine them, they are, I think, the fourth largest maker in the world. They also have they have lots of capacity in the United States.
Mhm.
And so that kind of, I think, gives them an advantage if they were wanting to go that direction. We'll see. It'll
And
be
they have substantial EV businesses,
right, right.
so they made that move. Um, I could see them. They also have a fair concentration um, in some of their global markets, so that shifting over to ride sharing, I think they could wrap their head around that better.
Possible. I've always looked at them as a possible. I know that I think it's AJ or somebody that I was reading the other day thinks that their financials are not that strong. But other than that, they seem to have the head of they seem to be futuristic. Uh,
But the thing is, the Korean government
oh
could
yeah,
backstop them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then I was just again fooling around on the internet as I commonly do, and I noticed this post by Elon, and interestingly, it got a little bit of feedback, but it didn't get that many, and I was kind of shocked. Elon says that maybe there should be a Tesla solar gigafactory. Did you see that post?
I think I briefly thought I did not have time to analyze it though.
Well, that's all he said was maybe Tesla should have a solar gigafactory. And I thought, well, yeah. Certainly, Brian and I have talked about the fact that we thought that Tesla should get into the solar business. And now with the tariffs, it seems like it would be an even better idea. And the only thing I can add to the story, which I did this morning on my show, but now I'll let you go. The thing I added on my show this morning was I'm guessing that Tesla has some pretty good solar tech since they've been in it for 15 years or whatever. And I think maybe they have some manufacturing capabilities, which might allow them to get the cost down pretty good. Anyway, what do you think?
I think the main thing is that so there's the Megapack 3 coming out next year, which has more of the transformer grid components in there to make it easier to pop out. So the the new solar tech that they have needs to fast deploy. So not just the solar panel part, but it needs to be something where gigawatts and gigawatts of it can come together, integrate with the Megapack 3,
Right.
with the grid, and be able to support the AI data centers, right? So the fact that they're going to convert over to how does this energy support AI data centers and also fast deployment of truck charging stations. That aspect, the differentiation of the product, I think, is something that they need to build out.
So I don't know if you saw my video last night with Brian White, but he was over at the Redwood facility. He got a tour of the Redwood facility, and they've just announced that they're doing a combination solar panel and battery kind of it's a smaller piece, but they're putting the solar panels flat on the ground so that they don't have to have any of the structural support underneath it. And then they're doing them edge to edge on all four corners. And then their claim is that they're making up for the fact that they're not tilted and going directly where the sun is. They're making up for that by virtue of the fact that they have a what do you call it, a cleaner, an automated cleaner, like your rug cleaner in your house.
Roomba.
Yeah, a little robot that goes and cleans all day long, just cleans these, so keeping them perfectly clean, so that and that helps them to get a higher amount of throughput. And then they combine that with this. I won't go into their whole thing about the batteries, but that's one way that they're doing the solar. And of course, he's on the board of Tesla. That I don't know, that being announced yesterday and Elon talking about a solar company today. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that it's mainly not for traditional solar on roof kind of thing.
Right.
It's for this, I need to make gigawatts of solar for data centers. So whatever the solution is, has to scale for that. It lets them um, the tariffs and the other barriers to make that mean that again, they're their own customer. Where
Yeah.
I'm going to buy 10 gigawatts of that, I'm going to buy 100 gigawatts of that. So then, just like Starlink was the main customer for SpaceX launches.
Right.
That okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to build this factory. I know it's going to be successful because I need this, right? And
Yes.
then we need to build it out for the rest. Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, I thought that was a pretty darn interesting little post
Mhm.
that is getting almost no coverage, but is being covered here on this channel.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, just tying into one of his previous posts, he also said, "How fast can you get a terawatt?"
oh,
So that's for AI data,
that's
AI
right.
data center stuff,
Yeah.
right? So a terawatt would need gigafactories to make that up.
And of course, he's also in the middle of this fight with the President of the United States and the Congress about relying so much on the non-renewables instead of getting into the future with renewables. And so he might be saying, okay, I'll do it myself. And of course, he's always said solar was number one and that nuclear would be a great backup, but that solar is number one. And I think you've always agreed with him.
Mhm.
At least every time you've been on my channel that I know of. In talking about the folks that missed missed the number, today, this morning, I also have you seen any of them explaining their miss? So far, I haven't seen anybody.
Troy explained his miss
Oh,
some.
he
Basically,
did.
yeah, he basically said that he was low in every region.
Low in
So
every region.
every region, yeah. So he was low in the United States. He was low for Model 3 and Model Y. He was low for S and X, and then he was low in Europe. He was low in China, low in the rest of the world. So basically, he was low everywhere.
Wow.
So he
Interesting.
admitted that. It was, 6,000 something
Here,
in,
5,000.
yeah, there. But, still, it was basically like he was down. Um, so he said 356, it was 384. So he was down 30. It was like, 7.9% down. So it was his largest miss ever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so,
Well,
it was systemic. His process, because supposedly it's like, okay, you're supposed to be counting VIN numbers. How are you off then?
yeah,
If the VIN numbers are off, so something systemic is happening to whatever his supposedly accurate process was.
right. Well, Tesla. So Elon had said that the numbers were looking okay in the United States, and I don't know if he commented on China, but China came back really strong. We got a
Mhm.
20,800 print this
Mhm.
week, so that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I was wondering, do you have any sense at all? Because I know we're not paying as much attention to the numbers anymore, but do you have any sense of, as right now at this moment, what the third quarter might look like, even without some of the things we just talked about? Just normal day in and day out. Will people be buying more or less or fewer? I mean, what do you think?
Um, AJ, I think, indicated that he thought, he had sold out at 360 or something like that. And then he bought back in at 315 or something like that. And he was saying that, because of the numbers that he was thinking they'd be far worse and they were not. So then he was more hopeful that Q3 would come in at all-time high numbers.
All-time
Um,
high.
yeah, all-time high numbers. Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's looking like any indication that the new Model Y wouldn't sell is
That's
not indicated. That basically it came in, 250 or something like that. Okay, of the vehicles were Model Y. Model 3 was basically flat. Like they were expecting Model 3 to drop
Hmm.
by 10,000, close to 10%, and it came in flat globally. So then Model Y came in, stronger.
Hmm.
And then you have full production, everything going, all gangbusters. And also they expected more weakness because you had, weak numbers for Rivian, weak numbers for Ford EV down
Yeah.
30%. You had overall car sales kind of soft and weak. And this coming in stronger suggests more strength going into Q3. So seasonality, things that go strong in Q3, the new models coming in strong, then and then other stuff with tariff subsidies, this and that, all seem to align to if all your factories are firing on all cylinders, your new models firing on all cylinders, all your suppliers are going good, you came in with a 10% stronger number, almost 10% stronger number than you expected, then and with strong strength at the end,
Hmm.
and you had in terms of deliveries, you produced 410, but you delivered 384, so you have reasonable inventory
Right.
going in, then you should be definitely in the range of all-time high, if not
Nice.
there.
Okay. Yeah, all right. That's great. So one of the things that was besides the surprise on the energies, which I was predicting 12.5, so I really missed on that one. I would, as you mentioned, I would expect energy to potentially be much higher in the third quarter because the bookkeeping has to catch up someday. There's
Yeah.
no evidence that Lathrop is not producing 10 gigawatts a quarter. There's evidence that we're getting more Powerwalls sold because there was an announcement today that they're increasing production of Powerwalls substantially. So that's selling well. So then you've got the addition of Shanghai. So somewhere along the line, we're not getting the bookkeeping is just way off at this point. Some quarter that's got to catch up and even go over maybe. So maybe the third quarter will be really strong on energy. Now, by the way, though, CERN or somebody showed where even with this lower number, it was still year to date, half the year so far, we are double last year's number, which is all they promised.
Right.
So
Right.
that at least is within the numbers that we should be expecting. Cybertruck, though, what the heck?
hmm Right.
Do you have any theories? Yeah, have any way to help the folks understand what's happening with Cybertruck? You've got a bunch of orders on sitting around waiting. I've got an order sitting around waiting, and yet they're only selling 12 Cybertrucks. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah. So they got the $70,000 version, but they decontented it. They basically need to get a good battery solution that could take out the $10,000 of extra cost, get down to $60,000, $55,000, with certain discounts, there's certain tax treatment for heavy vehicles. Um, but to be competitive with the uh, diesel and gas version of the Ford F-150,
Mhm.
right? They need to get down to $60,000, right? And also half of the trucks are work trucks for F-150s and those kind of pickup truck vehicles. And the Cybertruck does not, it has certain things that don't make that work. The camera is on the tonneau thing or on the lift or something like that. So when you take that down, I need to put a long 8 foot piece of wood in there. I need to take the back down. Now the camera is facing the ground
Oh,
and not facing backwards, right? So there's a bunch of like not little things, design things that if you're using this for a work truck that don't work for you, right? So um, they need to do a version 2 on the design, fix all those design problems with someone who's doing work truck stuff, have the torque on it, have the new batteries, and then get that out there.
all right.
So
Now you're talking my language. I have believed since February, I've said it a couple of times on the show, but not often, that they're slow rolling it because it isn't right.
right,
I really believe that they're trying to fix stuff.
Right.
And that they'll be so you're thinking maybe they might even have kind of a semi-reveal of a version 3 or whatever, a version, whatever it would be.
Right, right. You have a new version and need to have the batteries in, but it's not a priority, right?
I see. Yeah.
Low price vehicle, like even they solve all that stuff. They
Right.
go from selling 40,000 a year to 100,000, and if they get it perfect, 250,000, right?
Right.
Who cares, right? It's like I want them to have a proper 3-row Model Y, a compact Model Y, have the sales up 1 million globally. So I'm selling 1 million of my regular Model Y, new version, smaller, compact version, and the stretch version, sell another 1 million. Okay, now we're talking that goes towards getting toward the 3 million capacity that they
Right.
have,
Right.
right? So my priorities are their priorities. I don't care about getting that next version of Cybertruck. It will come when they solve 4680 and then come in with another thing after they've done the Model Y, after they've done Cybercab for Hertz for the next year. So I don't see them doing this thing, except with, they got a team of like 10 guys who do some redesign thing and
Yeah.
blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. They just ram through some quick and dirty thing, right? To fix up some of the stuff. Or it just happens because they got new batteries, right? But devoting serious design resources to solving that thing is not that top priority. Um, of course, they can go for like a whole home run thing where basically they get it down to $50,000 or
Right.
$45,000 and then try and go for 1 million volume, right?
Right. Right.
But their technology doesn't seem to be at that point, right? That
Mm.
that would seem to be LFP 4680s, cylindrical, high volume. That seems like a 2027, 2028 thing,
Got it. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay. All right. Okay. I think that covers all the stuff that was on my list. Is there anything that you saw today that I didn't, that we need
the
to be
the
talking about?
the main things that I'm really looking forward to are Grok 4 and Grok 4 integrated with the
That's right.
cars and like that. So there were some stuff where some guys who, what, Green or something like that, he works with some of the APIs or something like that, so that he's has it integrated based on the platform software they have. So you take the software that they have, you use some technical stuff, you actually do some work. It's integrated in, and he believes that they're going to release that integration thing with it. The updated, version 20 or whatever, firmware software they got in there,
Right.
and it's ready to go. So, and then July 4th, so after this Friday, maybe this weekend, Grok 4 comes out, and it's supposed to be really good for
Yep.
programming.
Yep.
So, if it's really substantially better than the other models,
Right.
and then competitive maybe with a new GPT-5 that's also supposed to come out in July, maybe, OpenAI's GPT-5,
Right. Right.
then you're having separation being the number one large language model, which they're scaling up the AI data centers. That would be huge for everything else AI related to it, and this move from this year to next year of being a full AI company,
Right.
right? And then beyond that, rumors of AI 5 chip gained some level of production, although not full mass production, but whatever, not quite mass production, but not one-offs either,
Right.
gained
Right.
some level of production, but they haven't put into vehicles yet. So it's just like, what does that mean? Like making 1,000, 10,000 of them, putting into something, what would you be putting them into? But then by the end of the year, getting to full production of
Right.
AI5, switching out all the cars to have the new, and also the Tesla bought the new version of the chip. So we'll have to do some investigation when, well, if Grok 4 drops this weekend,
Yeah. Yeah. That's gonna be a biggie. I know it's not a Tesla item, but Grok is gonna be a big part of Tesla's life, both in the robot and in the car as a bare minimum. Who knows what else, might be
well,
coming.
it also can take out help take out the safety monitor. If you
Yeah.
can talk to the car properly,
Yeah.
and then have hey, pull over, stop in lane, you can say those things, and then
Yeah.
it'll happen, right?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, that'll be, I'm really looking forward to that, to those kinds of improvements, having Grok as part of them. Okay, so we ended up with Tesla for today, up $15, which I got to enjoy 8 of it or 7 of it. I don't know. It depends. Somewhere
Yeah.
around there.
Yeah.
But the other 8, oh well, I missed that part. And 46 cents in the after hours. So continuing up, people very happy with those numbers. So your analysis on the stock going forward, we talked about the long term, the year end and into next year. Of course, my all-time high is not going to happen on Monday.
Mhm.
I've
Right.
given up.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
I'm letting you know. You're
Right.
the first.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I've given up on the idea of all-time high being reached as a result of Robotaxi improvements. We talked a little bit about the kinds of things that might achieve that kind of breakthrough with the investing public, both the retailers and the institutionals. Give me a timeline, Brian. What would you think?
So we need to punch through 335
Right.
for sure. I think that we're squeezing toward it. So
Okay.
it's the trading range is smaller and smaller toward
Okay.
that. So
Okay.
normally when you squeeze down to a point, then you break up or you break down.
Right.
I'm thinking that the solid numbers and other stuff suggest good news toward a break up, particularly by July 20th or whatever like that for the earnings call,
Okay.
right? Get some good news there. Get the I'm expecting the new car stuff to come out. So when those things come in over the next 3 weeks, that should I expect it to bump us positively to the upside. That news would be revealed that
Mhm.
and the Grok 4 and all this stuff like that would move us um, upwards past 330, 360. Once you're past that, then just technically you'll be yourself up to 400. The passage of the big beautiful bill,
Mhm.
um, whatever that means for the debt long term, because it will include tax cuts, $10,000 on tips,
Right.
$10,000 in overtime, $6,000 on Social Security. That will be a stimulus to the economy,
Mhm.
and that should move the market up, even if it's a sugar high
Right.
for 6 months,
Right.
um, up about 10%, right? So all those factors suggest that Q3 and Q4 should be solid for the overall market, should be solid for Tesla trading, um, should move us, at least to back to all-time highs on Tesla, right? But
So within this quarter, would you think we're back to all-time highs? Or, I mean, you're suggesting after the earnings call, we will get some certainty
yeah,
on some of these subjects that we're unclear about, that if the Model Q hasn't been introduced by the earnings call, then they will obviously be asked that question by every other person asking a question. So
right.
we should have some certainty at least on that.
Yeah. I really think, you know, for sure, if we get the Model Q coming out $30,000 or less, if we come out with that solid, particularly if you roll out and start selling those units in China, um, and in the United States, then yeah, all-time highs,
Okay.
right? But if that does not happen, if it's announced but not there, the overall market trend, and also assuming, the Elon Trump thing hasn't,
Yeah.
gone crazy, um, then we should at least get toward the 400 level. Just because of general movement, general whatever, right? It shouldn't take that much because there's no I don't see the big, negative news to drop other than, Elon and Trump strangle each other and you know, something.
So okay, let me get your opinion. I'll give mine first, which
Mhm.
is unfair probably for me to give it first, but I do not think we should have a third party. Do you think we should have a third party?
I think it's pointless that one, it's not a long-term thing. Like if you were to create a third party, even if you announce it, like, we have third way party, we have green
Right.
party, we have
Right.
whatever, right? It takes a long time to make it. It's like saying, I'm going to land on Mars. Okay,
Right.
great. Having a Mars program, saying I have a third-party program, it doesn't mean anything because you have to build a full slate of people and do a bunch of stuff,
Right.
right? Which is why Trump took over the Republican Party. It's why other groups, grab control of the Democrat Party because it's easier to grab control of mechanisms of the existing thing. I'd spend 10 times as much money, take 10 times as much time to do the full party build. It's
Right.
just, it's a lot of stuff has to happen. So even if you say you need it, all these other parties are down there doing nothing for a particular reason, right? That you have to put in serious effort. Now, Elon can say $2 billion a year, I'm doing this thing. I'm going to do it faster than anyone else has done it. It'll be 6 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
6 years, and then I'll have it. And then all you guys who didn't listen to me, I've activated all this stuff. I'm also messing it up with you guys,
Right.
but I'm also building this other thing. So I don't see how it happens in less than 6 years. I think it's just a lot of because you have to have the full slate of candidates.
Right.
If you're like a Green Party coming in every presidential election, just popping in a president candidate and whatever, and then a few random people who can't have don't support to win, and you haven't recruited, you have to give those people who are working for your party this kind of political career path
Yeah.
to actually
Yeah.
have something. So
Elon, I know you watch our channel, so please pay attention to what Brian just said.
yeah,
Or if somebody is watching it that knows Elon, please send Elon the snippet of what
yeah,
Brian just said. Brian, would you also post that on X? All
okay.
right, here we go. We have got the bonds selling off in the aftermarket or the pre-market now, thank goodness. Back down 2.2, but we're still at 4.27. It was all the way down to 4.19, Brian. I was getting excited. After the jobs, well, I guess basically it's going to be all about the jobs numbers in the morning as to where the bonds go, I suspect.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We've got oil back down just a little bit, sitting at 67.25, down 20 cents after being up $1.50 today. Natural gas sitting right in the middle of its range at $3.51. But here's the one, Brian, copper. I told you guys to buy copper. I don't give many pieces of recommendation on this channel. I told you to sell oil a week ago Sunday. I couldn't have been clearer. I said, sell oil, sell oil, sell oil, and it dropped 15 points or whatever. Copper, I don't know if there's still a buy here, but there probably is. We are up to 51.5 cents. I'm sorry, $5.15 is an all-time high by a lot. And don't they have to use copper like in every one of these data centers? I mean,
Yeah,
use
a lot of
copper
wiring.
for all
Yeah.
these power things that they're going to have to do.
Mhm.
Lots of copper wiring. So copper. I suspect it's still going to keep going up. So that's one of my few
Yeah.
recommendations.
If the AI data center stuff is the biggest, we think a long-term thing would be a long-term copper market, $10 in 2030, $15, whatever. Yeah, a long-term thing.
If Elon starts his solar panel business, doesn't it use a lot of silver?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, silver is also approaching its all-time high, even with the asterisk from when they tried to
The Hunt brothers tried to corner the market back in
tried
whatever.
to corner the market. We're at 36.75. All-time high is 38.50, I think. So
Mhm.
we're getting very, very close on silver. And again, same thing. I think people are looking at industrial uses as nothing. Some people think that it has to do with it's got to catch up to gold because it wasn't moving up as fast as gold. I think it's industrial uses. That's just me.
Mm.
The dollar mixed, but it's down, down, down. This is low for 3 years. Do you care?
No, not really.
No, I don't either. Bitcoin up 3,286 today, 108.8.
Mhm.
Okay, well, that might all change tomorrow with the jobs numbers, but if the job numbers come in kind of not horrible one way or the other, what happens to Bitcoin?
I'm not sure. Just the
Okay,
general trends seem to be that the administration's favorable to it, that the halving stuff still is in play and all that kind of stuff. So if the dollar keeps going to crap, then gold and Bitcoin then move up. It's an alternative thing to
right.
that with a tech component. So um, if you expect gold to go up, then you would, in general, expect Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's correlated, I think, to some tech.
Tech,
Bitcoin's
right.
correlated to some gold and stuff like that. So those correlations exist. So I think um, heading upwards.
Yeah. So speaking of tech, the NASDAQ for tomorrow, I mean for the night, is already up. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Almost looked at the wrong numbers. I was looking at today's numbers, not the pre-market. Okay. NASDAQ's up 0.02 after a very good day, almost up a full point a percent today. S&P up 0.03, and that's Dow up 0.06. And the Dow was actually down a little tiny bit today, but is recovering now, at least in the pre-market. So people are talking today. I know Tom Lee and others think that the S&P will be up at least another 10% this year. 6,000 seems to be in play. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that was,
7,000. 7,000.
well, the big beautiful bill thing,
Yep.
that you're going to
Okay.
do the stimulus thing.
Right.
So if you're going to stimulate, then that's, whether it lasts is another story. But going up 10% seems to be the thing if you're going to shove stuff in the economy. And then, there's not a insignificant chance that we get, where we could get to you have a ceasefire, you could get to a peace deal around Israel, could get some good stuff going in the Middle East with Saudi deal in Israel. Um, you know, Maybe then Ukraine and Russia do
Yeah.
something peace-wise, China can do something. So a peace dividend would be substantial to give another 10% on things. So
Yeah.
possibility.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, Brian. Let me just tell everybody that if they haven't had enough Brian, that we're going to do more Brian. Well, there's so many Brians, but this is more Brian Wong. Later tonight, we're doing a video where we're going to be talking about, this will be at 7:45, where Brian and I are talking about the connecting the dots video with regard to the Robotaxi expectations that he has that are just very different than what anybody else is talking about. So I highly recommend that you come back at 7:45 and watch that video. And last night there was another Brian that was on. Brian White was on. I mentioned it a little while ago. Brian White and I discussed that new factory, the new solar and battery kinds of installations that Redwood Materials is doing. I think that was a fascinating video, and not very many people watched that. I do recommend you go back. It was a pretty short video. Totally think you should go back and watch that one. I'll put the card up for that right here. Last words of wisdom, Brian? Anything to leave us with?
What are you in Grok for?
What do you need Grok for?
Yeah.
Looking for that one. All
Yeah.
right, Brian. Thanks so much for being on as usual. And to all of you out there, it has been great talking to you.